Hello everyone, this is Mr. Jackson, and today we're going to be going forward from our conversation about the nervous system into concept 2, which is going to be specifically looking at all of our body's special senses. Let's get right into it. Now, whenever we use the word sense or sensing, what we're talking about is the fact that we have sensory cells that are able to translate different environmental stimuli. Okay, so this stimuli could be chemical, it could be electromagnetic, it could be mechanical, all kinds of stimuli that your body, based off of the need in order to survive and thrive within its environments, we have all these different types of receptors specific to all these different types of stimuli, and basically we can translate these into action potentials that our nervous system can then integrate and respond to. So, we have general sensory receptors in our bodies, typically modified nerve endings that we're going to explore the different types. But these are just different types of nerve endings on your sensory neurons. Touch is considered a general sense or a somatic sense. So touch is one of our senses that we can identify, and we'll explore more as we move forward. It relates to our ability to detect pressure, pain, temperature, and tension through a variety of different general sensory receptors, different types of nerve endings that are embedded within the layers of your skin. Okay, now we will get in a future unit, we will get to looking into all of these structures specifically in the skin. But for now, we're just going to think back to the fact that we have all of these different pressure sensors. Those are mechanoreceptors. Pain, those nociceptors. Temperature, those thermoreceptors. All of these are very specialized sensory neurons with their own specialized nerve endings that can pick up on changes or relative thresholds for these different types of stimuli. And so we want to have an appreciation for just how many different types of sensors are going into our sensation of touch. And then we have our special senses. So not our general senses, but now the special senses. These relate to vision, smell, taste, hearing, and equilibrium or balance, you can think of it as. Now, as we go through this, what I would recommend you do is we're going to be doing our big body diagrams where we label key anatomical structures related to these sensory organs. We're going to be doing lab stations where we're going to be looking into some physiology, some practical application of these different senses. So what I would recommend is as you complete your guided notes and label your big body diagrams, after each part or after each different sense, be that touch, vision, etc., I would hop over to utilize the resources that we have posted, video references that we have posted for each of these senses, and then also go ahead and complete your lab station sense by sense so that you're basically going through the fullness of that experience each time you hit the next sense. Okay, so you'd start by, for example, you have your guided notes with touch. Now would be a good opportunity to do your lab station for touch. You're going to have now, we're going to move into your vision as a special sense. So we're going to make sure that we're labeling our eye diagrams as well as completing our vision lab station before we move forward. Okay, so just a little recommendation for how to best navigate this concept of special senses. But the key thing here, guys, is that we utilize these special sensory receptors in our sensory organs like our ears, our eyes, and our epithelial structures like taste buds or your olfactory epithelium, that's referring to your nose. And those are all going to be in your head. Okay, translating everything that's not touch from your peripheral systems or your peripheral body portions, it's all going to be within your head. So vision is considered to be the most dominant sense that we have as humans. We have very, very refined vision. It responds to light or electromagnetic waves. We have photoreceptors. So photoreceptors respond to light, and those are in our eyes. And this is our vision sensory organ. These are specific specifically designed to convert light energy, or convert that electromagnetic wave into an electrical version or an action potential that can then travel and arrive at the brain so that we can make sense of what these waves mean, what this light is showing us. The eye is surrounded by protective fat and the bony orbits in the skull. We have accessory structures like our eyebrows that help to keep sweat and sunlight out of our eyes. We have our eyelids and our eyelashes, which are really good at triggering reflexes like blinking, and that helps to keep the eye moist, but also to keep things from going into our eye that would be problematic. You have what we call a lacrimal apparatus, and this consists of a gland that produces and secretes your tears, and the ducts that drain those secretions. So whenever we think of that moisture, that watery coating for our eyes, or for the sensation or act of crying, like whenever we're sad, the lacrimal apparatus is what we have to thank for that. Okay, so the gland actually produces and secretes tears. Those ducts are what actually drain out those secretions. This is something that you're going to see in your big body diagram. Get myself out of the way here. So I would highly recommend labeling. This is going to be your eye muscles. So the muscles that are specifically catering all of your very fine eye movements. Those extrinsic eye muscles, there's 6 on each of your eyeballs. They control for all of the movements. I've labeled them here. I'll go through really quickly and just pronounce them, and you can see what they do. So you have your superior oblique. These are responsible for depressing and turning your eye laterally. So bringing your eye down or turning it to the outside. You have your superior rectus muscle. This is responsible, since it's superior and it is your rectus, so it erects something. That means it's going to elevate or to turn it medially. You have your lateral rectus, lateral meaning it's going to help with lateral movement. Medial rectus, specific to medial movement. You can see that over here. So if you turn, so this would obviously, if this is the medial rectus, this is the lateral, I would know that this would be the midline, right? Or where my nose would be located. You have the inferior rectus, so inferior, meaning if it pulls, it's probably going to depress the eye or to turn it medially. And then finally, your inferior oblique, which is going to help elevate and turn it laterally as well. Remember from our discussion about the muscular system, where these muscles are and where they would pull is ultimately going to be how we know what kind of movement they would create. Okay, so make sure that we get these on our big body diagrams. We may or may not see that again moving forward. Now, also, we want to go to the next portion of that anatomy for your eye. We have internally hollow with fluids that hold its shape, right? So that's what your eye is, and it's internally hollow. It's filled with fluid, or what we call humors, and that's what ultimately contributes. That fluid is what contributes to the eye maintaining its shape. If we were to drain the eye of its fluid, then it would deflate, similar to like a water balloon or a ball that loses its air. So the wall of the eyeball is made of 3 separate layers. Okay, you have the outermost layer, which is your fibrous layer. It's mainly sclera, which is just the white stuff, the white portion that we see as your eyeball. This anchors the site for extrinsic eye muscles. So all of those muscles that we just saw, they are going to attach in the sclera, or in that outermost fibrous layer. You also have your cornea here, which is considered to be the window that lets light into the eye. So it's that front portion here. Okay, so that's your cornea. The next layer is your vascular layer. So this is the middle layer. Okay, so we had our fibrous layer, that's the outermost. Our vascular layer is the middle layer. Anytime you see vascular, this means that we're going to have blood supply. It's vascularized tissue, right? So it has nutrient exchange and all of the fun stuff where we can benefit from our circulatory system, delivering oxygen and nutrients, and then removing waste products. Okay, so in this, it's going to include that middle layer. It's going to include your choroid, right? This supplies all the layers with blood. And then you've got intrinsic eye muscles, such as your ciliary body. This is that ring of muscle tissue that surrounds your lens. Okay, so your lens is here, right? So that ciliary body is going to be all of that muscle here that you see surrounding that lens. You have your iris, which is the colorful portion, the colored part of your eye. This is a ring of smooth muscle between the cornea here and the lens here. So it's going to be between those two. And this is going to contract and expand overall to change the size of your pupil. Okay, so when your pupil dilates, that is because your iris is either contracting or expanding in order to change the overall dilation of your pupil. The pupil is what allows light into the eye, so the iris is going to basically contract or expand in order to let more or less light into the eye. And then you have a suspensory ligament. Suspensory because it suspends. It's basically what holds up the lens as well. Okay, so it's a little halo of fibers that hold your lens up and in place. And finally, third layer, you got this inner layer. We refer to this as your retina. The retina. You got two layers within this inner layer. You've got that outer pigmented layer, so the pigment cells that help absorb light so it doesn't scatter all over the place, right? It can keep it absorbent and keep it intact. And then also you have that inner neural layer. So now we get into those neurons and neuroglia, which help to create a pathway for the light to basically travel to the CNS or to the brain. Okay? So that retina, it's two things. It absorbs light, and then it gives a nervous route in order to deliver those light waves and to be able to translate those into electrical signals, action potentials that can then talk with the brain, certain regions that respond to such. Furthermore, in that inner layer, in that retina, got a couple more. We've got the fovea centralis. This is right here. Right, this little fovea centralis, this gives us our sharpest and clearest vision. The optic disc is where the optic nerve exits the eye. So that optic disc would be right here, and you can see that optic nerve exiting, going back towards the brain. So that optic disc is that disc that basically is where that nerve exits. And then within the retina, also at this point, you have millions of those photoreceptors, those light responsive receptors that convert that light energy into action potentials, and then those action potentials are what can travel along that optic nerve, through the optic nerve to the thalamus of the brain, and then up to the visual cortex in the brain. And then those photoreceptors, there's two kinds. This is very important. You have rods, which are black and white. So rods are for black and white. They can basically be attributed to day or night. And then you have cones, which are specific to detecting fine details and color within your environment. So rods are black and white. Cones are there for our color spectrum. And last slide. I know this was a big one. Eyes are very intricate, and we should really, really appreciate how intricate because they give us our sense of vision. So the lens. I already mentioned this earlier, but this is your lens. Okay? This is a convex and transparent disc, and it focuses light that's allowed in and projects it onto the retina here at the back in that inner layer. So it focuses the light and projects it like a projector onto the retina. Back here at the optic disc, that is where we would have that optic nerve responding to what's been projected, and then it exits, goes to the thalamus and to the visual cortex. You have what's called a vitreous humor or liquid. Remember, humor is liquid. And the clear gel that fills that posterior segment of the eye behind that lens, so that is vitreous humor. And then we have aqueous humor, which is that clear fluid at the anterior, and that's in front of the lens. Okay, so aqueous is in front, vitreous is behind. Now, that concludes our first part to this concept. It's a rather long one, right? We introduced our sense of touch as a general sense and our sense of vision as a special sense. Now, I would recommend making sure that you have those big body diagrams completed and fully labeled, both the muscles and those anatomical exterior and interior structures. Have that labeled so that you can refer back to that as we go. Bonus points for color coding, and we will see you at the next part.